Meet Jesse, the embodiment of authenticity, integrity, and love, who challenges individuals to live authentically with fierce grace. As a seeker of knowledge and adventurer, she is driven by her passion for humanity and her mission to end suffering by helping others embrace themselves. Through her personal journey of overcoming shame and embracing authenticity, Jessie Torres has emerged as a coach, founder of Fierce Grace Transformation, and a motivational speaker dedicated to guiding others towards a life of fulfillment and empowerment. Jesse, that sounds like an amazing story. And we would just want
Well
to
said.
know.
What an intro.
Thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
that, Patty. And Jesse, if you could just tell us a quick inspirational story about yourself, like from your past, that would be a great way to start.
Sure. So my story is one of finding the light in the darkest moments, honestly.
Mm,
Coming from a history of child abuse, and then my first 18 years, and then my next 18 years in an abusive marriage. I found myself
mhm,
apathetic and, spiritually dead. And I was dead in every way a human being could be. And at that moment in time, it was an act of kindness that actually woke me up. I didn't know to call it kindness at the time. What I knew is that when I was home, I felt dead. And when I was in this group of people who treated me kindly, something in me came alive. Having navigated my brother was murdered. My sister-in-law committed suicide. Just a plethora of things that had gotten me to this place where, to me, life wasn't worth living if this was the way I was supposed to live it. And from that place to have an act of kindness, I say it's a short circuit moment, right? Like the flicker, whatever flicker
yeah.
was left inside of me that was still breathing, was ignited in that moment at the feeling of somebody else's good nature, at the feeling of somebody else just doing something for me for no reason. I didn't know what it meant. My father had told me, people just want to take advantage of you and get in your pants, basically. My ex-husband said, Jess, people want to break up a good marriage, so don't talk about our marriage to anybody. And so I looked down at the ground. I walked with shame lenses, and I thought people were going to do all these bad things before I ever trusted. So when these people acted in this way, it sparked something in me that said, I don't know what this is, but if this feeling is available, then life is worth living. And it gave me
Wow.
the courage to get out of that situation and to embark on a journey and a quest to understand human beings and to bring me where I am today.
Jesse,
Wow.
we have some questions actually from women in our lives that we wanted to share with you, but I
Sure.
just wanted to touch base on what you just said. It's amazing how one can go through so much breaking of trust. Like, you trust all these people in your lives. You trust your parents to take care of you. You trust your spouse to take care of you. You trust all these people in your lives, and then people break your trust all the time. And in that way, you can, kind of be distrustful of all people in general. And
Very much.
but you've been able to flip it around where you become more of a humanitarian, more trying to connect with people, more trying to rebuild trust with people. And I think that's incredible. Honestly, that's an amazing feat that you've been able to do that. What was that process like for you? And what's it like right now? You.
Yeah, it's a process, honestly. In order to love humanity at the level that I do, I had to start with me. Because I am part of the whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for how I was raised and how I learned to be as a people pleaser and as the good girl, always do the right thing, and to my own detriment, to the point where that's why I was apathetic, because my marriage was so volatile, and I kept allowing and allowing and allowing. I didn't think that my life could be different. And so to be able to fall in love with oneself, there's this misconceived notion that that's self-centered or selfish or conceited or anything. So I had to scribble out all of that stuff to understand that in order for me to love humanity, I am a part of that. Therefore, I had to fall in love with this. I had to fall in love with Jesse, the Jesse that I judged, the Jesse that I condemned, the Jesse that I said, should have fought harder when her father was coming after her. She should have kicked, screamed, yelled,
Hmm.
peed herself, poked his eye, whatever. Like, because now I'm all grown up and I can judge myself, right? But I was a little girl. I was 4 years old. I didn't know any better, but that's what I did. And so I had to come back to a place of seeing Jessie as this beautiful little girl and partner that signed up with me to understand shame at the depth of the level that I do, so that I can give back to humanity and come back to my own sovereignty. And the minute I did, now I see through those lenses of just falling in love with people, falling in love with people beyond the limitation of where they think they're unlovable.
Wow. I mean, to be honest, I'm just kind of speechless listening to this. Um,
It's a
it does
podcast,
take a,
Saeed. Yes. Not the time to be speechless right
that's true,
now.
but it is there's a lot of emotions involved in what Jesse
Hmm.
is saying, especially with trying to rebuild yourself after having your trust broken, and also the people that you mentioned that you hold so dear to you. You trust them because that's their role. Their role is to take care of you, and they messed up in their opportunity to be able to fit into that role properly. So how do you find someone, how do you build new healthy relationships after going through all that? How do you find new people to fit into those roles to take care of you, or not necessarily like just be responsible for you, but at the same time, when you're feeling down, they're the ones to help pick you up.
That's such a great question. And, it's still a practice, you know, but the difference is that I can see people in all their beauty. I don't
Mm,
expect perfection, right? I understand that I might get let down, but I don't come with that means something about me,
yeah.
right? I'm able to come, and again, it started with trusting myself that I wouldn't put myself in a situation where somebody was treating me unkindly, right? Or causing me harm, where
Hmm.
before I allowed that, right? I was called so many names and I was put down so much, and I just allowed it, allowed. So I had to find my own safety and find my own trustability in me to know that I could be discerning enough to be to love someone but not have to be on the end of their bullseye. That I
Okay.
can love someone and wrap them in compassion, because my belief is that if somebody is treating me unkind, that is a testament to their wound, not my
Hmm.
truth.
Wow.
Yeah, because not
And
everyone
from
is
that
necessary.
place, I can wrap them in compassion and just move away from being the target of their pain. But
Yeah.
I don't judge them or hate them because of it. I just understand that's their journey. I just don't want to be a part of being on the brunt of their pain.
So basically, from what I'm understanding, is you don't judge people by what their actions are, because they might have a certain trauma in their past that might make them make these kind of decisions. I
Yes.
because if Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that doesn't mean I condone or agree with
Hmm.
certain behaviors,
Yeah,
right? Like my little brother was murdered last year. And
sorry for your
in
loss.
in that, I'm like, how is this here again? This was an uppercut moment for me. I'd done so much to
Yeah.
learn from my older brother's death and from my marriage, from all of it, to the point where I have forgiven. I don't vilify anybody. I love my father. I love my ex. There's nothing there. I just understand that was the divine choreography in my journey. But when this happened with my little brother, I was like, what the heck? I thought I had seen my darkest days.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, this was another part of the divine choreography. So my question was, the guy that killed my brother, where I felt anger and rage, was at what the frick happened in his childhood that caused him to believe it was okay to take somebody else's life, right?
Mm,
So I'm seeing the patterns of behavior are at the consequence of unresolved trauma, undiagnosed trauma, right? And it's rippling, and I'm receiving the ripple effect of unprocessed traumas, my father's, my ex's, all of that. It was all part of their unresolved trauma that I am at the end of going, oh my God, like here it is again. So it's not that I condone what he did. Of course, I wish my brother was here every day. And so it's not that it's okay, but I don't get into a place of suffering over it. I just
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Because then it takes me out of what I believe. I'm asking every day, God, if you meant to take both my brothers 30 years apart, then what do you want with me? Because I believe
Mm.
there's purpose in it somewhere along the journey. It doesn't make me happy. It's not the way I want it. And if there's some sort of awakening that's waiting for me on the other end of my suffering and my pain because of my brother's loss, then I'm all about finding out what that is. I wish it could be different. I wish that I could learn the lesson differently every single day, but it isn't what is.
And what's
So
the
I get to
process?
seek it differently.
That's I like. I really like the process of rationalizing it, and to to the point where it is based on mental health and the traumas that are inflicted upon the individuals involved in the whole situation. But something that I want to understand is, what is your process of forgiveness like? Where where do you develop that empathy?
The process of forgiveness, I have it in 4 steps. So
Mm-hmm.
initially, going back to the moment
Yeah,
where something happened, right? And seeing it from, I call it the cosmic seat. So, almost parental lenses, or like I'm hovering over the
yeah,
situation. And then the next step is to see what else is true. What else is true about me? So if I think about, my father sneaking into my room at night, um, I see a little girl who built traps. I see a little girl that was trying to protect herself in some way. She was trying to get warned when her father was coming. And although I can see a little girl that how sad that is, that, you know, she had to go through that, which is true. But I
yeah.
also see a very courageous, a very resilient, a very creative, a very resourceful little girl. And I'm able to now, which is step 3, is pull the gift. Now, how can I find the gift? What did that experience give me? It gave me a sense of resilience that I didn't know I was going to need years later when
Wow.
I was going through my divorce. Right. And I always say, if God could whisper, like, I know this sucks right now, Jesse, but if you knew why I need you to build this muscle, you would understand. I don't get to know, but God does. The universe, whatever your belief is, knows. And so I can see both sides because both are true. And when I'm able to find the beauty, when I'm able to find the gift,
Yeah.
then I can forgive. Then I can release. Then I can say thank you, live in gratitude, because anything other than that is an argument with what is, what happened. If I walk around saying that shouldn't have happened, that was wrong. Okay, I can have that belief, but if I say I shouldn't have, it shouldn't have, then I'm in argument with the fact that it did.
Mm-hmm.
It did happen. So if it
Mm-hmm.
did happen, I'm going to find the light in the darkness.
Wow.
It seems like that that's actually really good. Like, there's a factor of moving on from there. Like, it's after going through so much trauma, you learn, I guess, the steps of how to move on from what hits you further along the line. And it's kind of like following the path of least resistance, I guess.
Mhm.
And I wonder if, when you follow that path, do you does it also like teach you about fate and like believing in fate, which then in turn also might help with that, following that path of least resistance?
100%. 100%. When my older brother was killed 30 years ago, I was in shock. I
Yeah,
turned my back on God. I was raised Catholic. I was Christian at the time. When my brother, it was such a shocking incident that I thought, I don't even know. What do I know? Like, I don't even know if God exists. What is faith anyway? And you know what? If you do exist, I hate you for taking my brother. That's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't until my brother actually, I saw him, he showed himself to me, and what I can see is whatever is a vision, or he's standing there all in white, and there's all this white what looks like people, but you can't kind of tell, because are you really seeing it? It's this weird bizarre thing, but he just did, like, with his hand, he just did this gesture, and he says, Jess, everything is as it's supposed to be. And I didn't know what it really meant at the time, but it brought me calm. I knew he was okay. And from that moment has been a journey of me coming back to understanding that everything is in divine order.
Mhm.
My little brother being murdered last year, I dug my heels deeper in my faith and in my trust in the divinity of it all. And that God doesn't waste the pain. We do if we
Yeah.
choose to. There is something there for us. It just doesn't look the way we want it. Of course, it's atrocious, some things that are happening. But if it happened, I always use John Walsh as a story, what he
Mhm.
did to save thousands and thousands, the guy that created America's Most Wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He saved thousands on the heels of the death of his 6-year-old son. So
Yeah.
if I look at it from the divine choreography of life and people's soul contracts or contracts with God, that 6-year-old signed up to be the catalyst for John, because God knew John was going to save thousands.
Yeah.
So now I see it as a divinity. I see my brothers as angels. Like, they came here for me to get this memo so that I can make the difference that I'm here to make.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it. So again, I want to make sure that listeners are clear, like, whatever happened to you, like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's not that I condone things, or it's just, I'm not the boss. I don't get to call how it goes, but I do get to make a conscious decision as to what
Mhm.
I choose to take from the experience, to either expand me or suppress me and cause me suffering.
Wow. Um. So there's so much trauma out there. Everyone
Yeah.
we deal with deals with trauma. Why is there so much trauma in general? Why are so many people broken in many ways?
Because we're
And
not
what?
healing.
Uh huh.
We're not healing, right? In a world right now where we have so many coaches and so much personal development, and we have, courses at our fingertips, what's happening is we're intellectualizing,
Mm.
right? An emotional and an energetic thing that needs to be released from our bodies. And so we are knowing our way out of healing. And when we do that, what it does, it invites a deeper level of shame. Because now I read the books, I went to the seminar. Why am I still stuck? What's wrong with me? And it just ripples and it ripples and it ripples. And that is what causes a deeper level of trauma that just goes out to everyone. And so I think that it's three things. It's undiagnosed trauma, it's unacknowledged trauma, and it's
Mhm.
unresolved trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to realize, sometimes they think trauma, oh, it's a big rape or something. No, it's whatever the child made meaning of in the moment of the experience.
And how do you heal from trauma? We've all been through
Yeah.
traumatic experiences. I don't know.
Well,
For me, it's been like time. Time is the one thing I feel like that's been mostly healing for me and helped me forgive others and understand others. But I don't know. Is there anything that helps speed up the process?
well, absolutely. I think that part of what I said earlier, and being able to go to those moments and capture the other side of the story. I always say part of my teachings is to help people see the unseen so that they never unsee it. Because
Mm-hmm.
now when I go back to the moments of building traps, I can only see the beauty of that little girl. I can
Mm-hmm.
only see her resilience and her resourcefulness. That's all I see now. So there's no edge anymore for me. I'm not angry. I'm not sad, because I now see it through a different set of lenses. And so part of the work that I do is going into those moments in a way where we can hold ourselves, not in a way to re-injure. Because sometimes people are like, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to remember. I spent my whole life trying to forget what happened. But what's happening is we have a society where we're taught to move away from versus be with, right? It's like even something as simple as cold plunges. You do a cold plunge, you're told to disassociate, right? Pretend you're on a hot beach and you're sweating and then get into that cold. It's just like, what if we said no? What if you are with the cold? And the first time I did that, it was miraculous, and I felt awe at watching my body adjust its temperature to save me, because I didn't move, disassociate from, I was with the fact that I'm feeling cold, and I could have sat there forever because my body did its beautiful thing. But when I'm trying so hard to move away from it, it's like I'm in resistance. So, and I get it. A lot of there's been trauma that's been very, very deep. And so I get it. To do it in a safe environment, do it with someone that's mentoring you, that's alongside you. But we're not going back to re-injure. We're going back with a different set of lenses. We're hovering over, we're seeing the other story so that we can find the beauty. When my little brother died, I thought, well, part of this could be that I need to eat my own medicine. Here I
Mm-hmm.
am at the biggest uppercut of my life. I thought I was done. I thought I'd seen my darkest days. So here I am. Well, how do I find light in this darkness? And what I was witness to was understanding that the depth of my sorrow was equivalent to the depth of my love. I was able to see his children. Three of them, he has nine, but three of them from different parents they'd never met before, who come together and loved each other like they'd known each other forever. I saw people post on his Instagram about how he changed their lives. I was able to see my family show up in a way that I'd never seen before. So there was beauty all around me. And in those moments where we're in the deepest, darkest place, there is beauty to be found. We just have to seek it, but we're not taught.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is kind of we all have memories of traumatic events that happened to us in our childhood and our lives, and those things you can remember them so clearly, where you were, who was there, where you were sitting, how the room was, like all those details sometimes are so clear. But so what are you supposed to do with those memories? I know you said you have to try to like re-perceive those memories and tell a different kind of story from it. Do you have any other
Well, see,
techniques?
what
Mm-hmm.
happens is when we go to those moments, we're appalled, like we're just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, like I can't believe. And so, which I appreciate, and that part needs your support. It needs your love. It's seeing the pain that you went through. But the fact that you got back up, the fact that you decided to still be kind, the fact that you're here, and I'll just use you as an example, you're here,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a podcast because you're wanting to give back to the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, so whatever happened, who you are today is because of that child or because of that moment that you still decided to move on with life and be a good person. Like, there's so much to honor, but we're not honoring. So either we see ourselves through, I was a victim. There's my victim story, which is true. You were victimized. I was victimized, but I'm not a victim because I got back up. I persevered. I still decided to be kind. I still decided to be a seeker, to find the best version of me. So guess what? The depth of my darkness is converse to the height of my light.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to be willing to see it that way versus see it through those painful eyes. Society teaches us to be victims. Be victims. That way we can, prescribe you and you can stay with our medicines. And, I won't go down that road. But again, it's like the sicker you are, the better for us. You're more controllable that way. So when you start to realize that you can see what happened instead of having pity or sadness, that you can see the divinity in it all, you can start to release the edge that it has on you. And you can start to find forgiveness. Forgiveness is just a gateway to understanding that all is in divine order.
Wow.
Yeah.
You make it sound like it's a societal issue that we're all facing, and that it's
It
kind
is.
of maybe imposed, like it's kind of engineered in a way for us to. And I see it definitely with like addictions and disassociations. What you were talking about, I think that's super common nowadays.
Our obesity, our nutrition. Why are we supersizing something that's filled with chemicals so that we can become obese and dependent? Why are those things allowed? Why are those things
Why?
FDA approved
Mm-hmm.
when they're
Why is
Doesn't
that?
slowly killing us?
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't seem like the FDA is doing their job.
Not when you look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Not when you have somebody that's diagnosed with cancer and can turn their life around over changing not only their eating habits, their nutrition, but also their inner world. Like I told my mom, it's like, because we have a family member going through it right now. I'm like, if your inner world doesn't change, honestly, it doesn't matter what you eat. Your inner world, if you're stuck in unforgiveness, if you're stuck in hatred, if you're stuck in anger, if you're stuck, you're drinking poison every single day. And I work, God bless my mom, she's one of my greatest teachers. She has a lot of anger, and she's lost
Mm-hmm.
2 sons, for God's sake. So I get it. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, she drinks poison every day. I tell her, Mom, I watch you drink poison every time, every day that you get into that rage and you are in unforgiveness, you drink poison, and you're expecting the other person to have the effects of it.
Wow. That's so,
That's
that hit hard. That's so true.
that is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like, how is she? How do you try to support her to battle this addiction?
How do I support what?
So how do you support people to battle their addictions and just to get over them?
To get over the addictions? Well, it's not
Yeah.
the addiction that's the problem. It's what are they escaping? Right, the addiction
Mm.
is the thing that gets them out of, right, the disassociation I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I can't deal with the fact that I was sexually abused. I can't deal with the fact that, I was raped or whatever. So I just, just if I just drink, right, I don't have to go into my thoughts. I don't have to be with what, because I just replay the thing over and over again, or whatever it is. Right, sometimes it could just be depression. I'm not enough. I didn't succeed. My dad told me I'd never amount to anything. Here I am, barely making minimum wage. Right, let me just keep drinking or do this drug because that makes me feel good in the moment. It disassociates me. Food does that too. This tastes good, this feels good, it drips dopamine, it opens oxytocin. It's just like, oh, I need this because my inner world is beating me up so badly that
Yeah.
I need to have this thing to make me feel good in this moment. Don't you dare take it from me.
And is there like a certain maybe plan or like process that that you put people through in your coaching that they stick to, so that to get them over this type of addiction? And like, what exactly are some of the steps that they have to take? If you
Well,
can explain them a
it
bit.
depends on the level, the gravity of the addiction, right?
Okay.
It could be addiction to food is different than addiction to heroin. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
different chemical things that's causing the need for it now, that you can go
Yeah.
through withdrawals and those kind of things. But if it's addiction, let's just say alcohol or food or something like that, that we can slowly start to identify what is it. Like, I did this to myself. I've had, my weight has been up and down for my whole life. Part of it because in my abuse with my father, I was put on such a pedestal, but I went from shame, I'm disgusting, I'm gross, no one's ever going to love me because this is what happened to me. I went from all that unworthiness into a marriage that now I was a trophy wife. So look this way, dress this way, but now you're, and all these, I won't say the words, all these obscenities. If you go out to the grocery store in shorts, right now
Mm-hmm.
you're,
Yeah.
all these horrible things. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would gain weight as a source of protection. If I gained weight, then I wouldn't attract attention. But in my situation, my ex would say, "Well, you going to eat that, babe? You put on a few pounds." So then I would lose weight, but then I would get attention, and then I was a whore, and I was all these other things. So it was just this constant conflict that had me not knowing what to do with this body. I just wanted to run face first into a train and just wreck it so that I didn't cause problems. I felt that my essence, my being, was what caused me so much pain. It attracted my father inappropriately, which I blamed myself for, and it caused my husband to get in fights with people, or just if they even had a conversation with me. So that's why I looked
Mm.
down at the ground. So I always had this issue with food, not knowing how to navigate it, what to do with it, losing weight, gaining weight. And I realized one moment where I was literally walking to the pantry and I had just read an email,
Yeah.
and I stood up and I started walking up, but I had a conscious, worked enough to recognize consciously what I was doing. And I was having this conversation with myself from my office to the pantry going, "What are you doing, Jess? You're not even hungry, Jesse. What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, but I was still going and I was still reaching, and I grabbed the bag of almonds and I just started, and I'm like, oh, it was that email. Now, so stress for me, eating's coping. It's just like, oh, if I get stressed out, oh no, I did something wrong. Oh no, I'm not being the good girl. Oh no, that thing. It's just like, oh, just let me grab something to eat, and that'll make me feel better. I didn't even know. I didn't even know to know. So once we start to identify, where is there limitation in your life right now? What is it that has you stuck? right? So it's not about the overeating. It's that's the coping. That's the consequence of your inner world being in some sort of argument. And when we
Hmm.
start to unfold that, we can start to navigate the coping. You won't need the coping when you clear what's going on inside.
And what if the coping was just healthy habits? So, for example, you said almonds. I mean, almonds are healthy, right? I mean, you can. That's fine. You can eat almonds if you're stressed. They'll, if anything, they'll help.
But it
Is
wasn't
that a
the
bad thing
almonds.
or?
It wasn't the almonds. It was the mechanism that caused me to go put something in my mouth when I wasn't even hungry.
Mm,
It's just me getting up and going. It was on autopilot. I was
yeah.
conscious enough to catch it, but on autopilot, the minute I read that email, I stood up and I started walking. And so it's that behavior. It's not the almonds. It's not the Cheetos. It's not the whatever the heck. That's the thing that brings me pleasure in the moment that I put it in my mouth. It's like, oh, okay, the release of serotonin, because my serotonin level's gone right now because the stress levels jacked my cortisol. So let me just feed it. So it's kind of like counterbalancing the pain that caused me to feel that way to begin with. Once we start to realize what those things are, we can start to navigate what to do instead. What's the
Hmm.
truth? Come back to the email. It's not that big a deal. I can answer it this way. It doesn't mean I failed. It doesn't mean I'm not good enough as an entrepreneur or whatever it was I made meaning in the moment.
Yeah.
We're meaning making machines. When we start to recognize the meaning we're giving things, we can start to have a better conscious awareness of what we decide to make meaning versus allow our unconscious conditioning to make meaning. Does that make sense? So
It does.
there's an
Yeah.
unconscious conditioning that's happening from the moments of trauma, right? When I left my father's hands and went right into my husband's hands, I left with an unconscious conditioning that said, you're not good enough, you're ugly, you're dirty, nobody's going to want you, right? And so the minute my ex stepped into my life, he was the first person that called out what was happening with my father. I tried to tell my mom when I was 16, but she didn't hear me. So
Yeah.
I was still running from my father. He showed up and he just said, he brought me home late because when I was 18 I rebelled. I thought, I'm getting out of here. Dad, you want me home at midnight? Okay, cool, I'll be home at 2. That's kind of my attitude at the time. And
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
brought me home late. My dad was on the porch, angry. And he said, you get out. And he told me, you get in the house. And he yelled at me all night. But next day, my then boyfriend asked me, what's up with your dad? And I said, what do you mean? He was mad because you brought me home late. He said, no, that was not an angry father. That was a jealous man. And when he said that, it opened up Pandora's box. And when he wanted to be with me anyway, it caused another short circuit in my brain. I was like, wait, I'm filthy and you still love me? Oh my God. I felt madly in love. Right. And he came from an abusive upbringing. He was the youngest of 4, the only boy with a very brutal alcoholic mother. He would come home to his sisters unconscious on the floor. So we knew that we had this trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
we came to this marriage saying, he said, my kids will never see me drink. And I said, my kids will never be molested. And we thought we fixed it. But we didn't know that we were bringing all the unresolved trauma into the marriage, right?
Yeah.
So now it quadrupled. It was worse. My dad would yell and scream, call us stupid, but my ex would do it volatile, more vulgar, but it felt similar. It was familiar. So this must be what life is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what I started to adopt the belief around. So now it's just like, just make life good. Just make sure he doesn't get mad. Just make sure everything's taken care of so he doesn't explode, right? Let make sure that I look the way he wants me to when we go out, but don't, wear shorts to the grocery store. Now it's just like literally this hyper vigilant life of not even knowing who Jesse was. When I finally got out of my divorce at 38 years old, I was like, who the frick am I? I don't even know. I was everything I needed to be in order to keep the peace. And I lost my way.
Um,
Down.
what's
Yeah.
it like your perception of victimhood and being a victim? I saw on your website that you say that it's really hard to make a change if you see yourself as a victim, but if you are a victim, and those are the people that need to make change the most, those are the people that need the most help. What's your understanding of victimhood?
Being victimized is one thing. Okay. I was victimized as a child. but I'm not a victim. And by saying I'm not a victim is that I still thrived. I still moved away from. I still grew up. I still had my own life. And you know, oftentimes we don't know, right? It's like we hold on to our victim story like a security blanket. Just
Mm-hmm.
like, and what it does is it says, you know, don't you know this thing happened to me? That's why I'm not succeeding in my life. Don't you know this thing happened to me? That's why I can't accomplish my dreams. That's why I'm broke. That's why. And so it becomes the story connected to the thing that happened that keeps you a victim. It's like re-injuring yourself over and over and over again. Like, I'm not a victim. I was victimized. Behavior happened. But guess what? My dad acted. I created the meaning that I was gross and disgusting and no one would love me. I did that. Right? By what? I don't know. Society standard. This is kind of a dirty thing. We don't talk about it. It's shameful. This is what society's going to think of me now. And I created the story. So I get to uncreate it. I get to decide what's true about me. And that's why it takes me out of victimization, right? Victimhood, victim mindset. It's just like, no, I'm not a victim. This happened, but I get to choose who I get to be moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
Jesse, I wanted to. So this is a bit of a maybe unorthodox question, but how have you ever thought of like how your life would have turned out if you were a man instead of a woman?
That's an interesting question. I've toyed with the idea of that of next time. You know, I want to try it this way. And you know, here's the thing. Like, I have twin sons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love men, and I think that I would be a really good man. I would show up with so much heart. And I
Mm-hmm.
also understand, you know, the element of safety for women, right?
Yeah.
Like, we are assessing safety all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And so sometimes, and I've coached, you know, relationships, and, you know, the guy's like, well, why do I always have to? Why do because you do. Because at the end of the day, you bring us safety. You make us feel safe in our ability to communicate with you, and our ability to be vulnerable with you, and our ability to do all the things. You will have everything you want and more. Just give me the ability to close my eyes and feel like you've got me. And if you do, because women innately are the nurturers, the lovers, we are the caretakers. And so we want to be able to feel that we can surrender in your arms. But the problem is, it's not just men's fault, it's women's fault too, because we've tipped the scales. Because now we've been so wounded and so hurt, and now we want to prove that we could do it all. And so we did. And so now we have very masculine women. And so our men are confused. They're like, should I help you bring your groceries, or will I be insulting you? I don't know. Can you like guide me here? And my sons have been the victim of those situations.
Yeah.
Where women are so, and again, I feel the imbalance. I think that women are afraid to take their guard down. You know, in a room of 200 women, you ask the question, if God took all men off the planet, what's the first thing you would do? And one lady answered, she said, I go jogging at 11 o'clock at night. And it was such an interesting response because, yeah, it's like a guy wouldn't even think twice. He just goes jogging. But for us, no, that's dangerous. Let me carry my mace. Let me carry my, you know, because again, at the end of the day, no matter how strong we are, if you put us in the jungle, you guys are the stronger, right? You are the stronger. So in that, if we can cultivate safety, because we lose it early on. And for women, we're always assessing it. So if you're my person and you can bring safety to me, then I'm going to feel I can lean on you. Trust me, the feminine in me will open. It will flourish. It will now be almost like given permission to. But because we've made things so imbalanced, men are confused and they're not sure how to show up. So they show up as pleasers. And it's great because they do the laundry, but then there's no polarity. right? And when there's no polarity, then we show up with bigger dukes than our men. And now we're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
women need to be allowed to come back to their feminine core, which is another essence of teaching that I do called sensual alchemy. And it's sensual, not sexual. It's sensual. Why? Because our sensual self is a thing that's also been shamed. But I think it's a beautiful way to connect with source, God, or the universe. It's when you see something beautiful, you taste something delicious, or it's a beautiful gift that we have as women to be in our feminine. There's a difference between being masculine and being fierce. So mama bear energy is different than I'll take you out, right? The whole different energy. And so I think that there's definitely something there for us to learn to come back to our truth. But if our guys can hold strong and allow us to feel safe in their arms, they're going to get loved and they're going to get nurtured and they're going to get everything they want from their partner. So interesting answer to a long answer to your question,
Interesting question,
but I think
Said.
I'd make a really good man.
All right, you thought about it. Said, we
Yeah.
have some questions from women in our lives, actually. We've done
That is true.
our
We should
polls,
bring them
and
up.
so I think now would be a good time to bring them up.
Sure.
What do you think, Said?
Let's go. So I kind of did start it off with that question about being a man. So let's continue on that side. How do you think your career has been influenced by being a woman?
How has my career been influenced by being a woman? I guess if I had to answer that question, because I don't see it, I see myself as a lover of humanity. So I
Hmm.
don't look at it from a woman trying to do something, I guess. But if I
Okay.
had to look at it like that, I would say that it would be this conversation of masculine, feminine, of
Mm-hmm.
understanding also sexual abuse from the woman's perspective and losing safety um, and helping bring women back to, because I believe that if we can if we can bring women back to who they are at their core, we can bring back the balance in our life. If we look at the feminine, we've been in our masculine so long that that's why we're killing each other, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, the beauty of the masculine is beautiful, but the inauthentic masculinity or the wounded masculine is causing wars and arguments and all these
Mm-hmm.
things. So if we can come back, we can bring a balance. So if I had to say anything about who I am as a woman, it's understanding that, driving
Hmm.
from love and wanting to bring that so that we can come back to balance. And I think that if I can help women in particular come back to their own empowerment in the ability to be feminine, right, and not out of balance, then I can do that. And I can do it from the set of lenses that I have as a woman.
That's a great response. Like I that's really inspiring of the power of the empowerment that you're talking
Thank
about.
you.
And to follow on to that, another question was, did you have strong role models and who were they? And to follow up on that, did you harness mentorship to get ahead?
What was the second part?
Did you harness mentorship to get ahead?
Oh, yes. Okay. So I didn't have mentors, honestly. I ended up oftentimes taking care of my mother. And so, in the context of upbringing, no. But as I started to become a seeker, the very first book I ever opened, which I wasn't a reader, I would always fall asleep. So I don't even remember what got me to this book, but it was The
Yeah.
Unmistakable Touch of Grace by Cheryl
Mm-hmm.
Richardson. Which is, I love authors because I don't even remember the whole context of the book, but I remember I read something in there that made me believe differently, that made me believe that I could have a different life than the one that I thought I'm destined. This is it. This is my life. Right. And it opened my eyes to that. And from that, I mean, I've had therapy. You know, I've hired coaches. And one of the things in my therapy session, I actually told my therapist, I said, I want to do what you do, but that's a whole lot of school and a whole lot of time. And she said, you should be a coach. And this is back in 2005, I want to say. So coaching wasn't as big as it is now. I'm like, what do you mean soccer coach? What are you talking about? Right. So I looked into it. And as I looked into it, I got certified through Coaches Training Institute. And as I was going through it, because I was like, oh my God, I love this. And as you go through it, you're healing yourself. As you're learning the processes of becoming coach certified, you are healing yourself. And so it just kept opening up, opening up, opening up, opening up. And then, through the context of a seminar I went to with my sister in real estate, I found out of Tony Robbins, the speaker at that particular event. I'd never been to anything like this. And he was talking. I thought he was really cool. And he just said, oh, my mentor, Tony Robbins. And I'm like, if I like this dude, who's this Tony Robbins dude? And I ended up going to a UPW. And from there, just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, it opened me up to a whole new world. I thought I was on a high and I hadn't even had a drink. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but wow, it was a whole different experience. And that got me to want to be a coach with Tony, because I thought, wow, like this experience is so magical. If I could be a part of this team, then I could truly make a difference. And it was a interesting, a beautiful story how I got there. That is for another time. But it was one of those total in survival. I mean, I was turned upside down after my divorce. I was, trying to build my way back, but I was still robbing Peter to pay Paul. But I ended up attending an event where I met the coaching director and introduced myself, and the rest is history. And I coached for Tony for 7 years. So, I always have a coach in my corner because I'm human.
Yeah.
And as much as I've expanded and as much as I've connected to seeing the divinity in all, I'm still a human. There's still a Jessie along this journey, right? She still navigates, people being unkind. She still navigates, growing her business. So in that, I have mentors as well that I keep in my corner for me to be able to just be able to unplug and not be the one that's always teaching.
That's good. Yeah, that sounds like a very healthy relationship that you and group of people that you keep relationships with to keep supporting you and also allow you to feel like you can continuously grow.
Well, and even after Tony, I actually wanted more, because Tony's magnificent at helping you bust through your limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted more of a spiritual connection, and I wanted more. I wanted an expansion of my spirit, and I knew that it wasn't enough to just push my way through mindset. That there was something else that needed resolution, and I actually went to India and got certified as a meditation instructor. And I started to really connect with that. Then I came onto heart math, which I absolutely love, and got certified as a heart math trainer to understand the rhythm of our heart and the coherence between the heart and brain. So I was just getting more and more understanding of this human experience so that I can find mastery within myself. And I still seek, I'm actually in training now for holomorphic therapy. Because connecting the physical body to our inner world and understanding how we can resolve that is just another level for me. So I'm always seeking for greater expansion.
That's great advice. I mean, it's because what you're doing is basically you're being a student of life constantly. You're not stopping. Nothing is stopping you, which is this type of determination which people should have in their lives. And it's probably a mindset thing. Maybe most people don't necessarily have it or work on it at least. But once they do, I do believe that the benefits of it is just amazing because you change your perspective on everything, like you've done for yourself. Like everything just becomes much more positive and much more. I think you just become as an individual a happier person as well,
Mm-hmm.
just
Definitely.
by looking at things differently.
Definitely. If
So
you think about the tension in people's face or whatever, it's like there's so much to be stressed out about, or so much like, if you want to explore this, go out and just ask people, are you happy? That question, people are like, oh, well, I'm not unhappy. Let me think, am I happy? It's like, and it's so interesting to see them go into their own, like, I don't know, am I happy? Am I
Mm-hmm.
happy? Like, when's
they're
the
getting
last time you
used.
just
Yeah,
laughed out loud? You know what I mean? It's like, am I happy? So we have a very dense society. I mean, honestly, we're told that if you're not gripping the steering wheel and drinking 5 frappa somethings, then you're not working hard enough. Get out there, grind, work. You'll sleep when you die. That's the kind of
Yeah.
energy. And so the people I work with, which are these high level achievers, are
Hmm.
those people that have placed their worthiness on their next achievement and they don't know it. So they're exhausted, they're burnt out, they're successful on paper,
Yeah.
but their inner world and their life is not where they want it to be, and they feel themselves stuck and stagnant, and they see a life, they see a possibility that they know they can have, but they almost feel guilty for wanting it because, well, life isn't bad,
Hmm.
right? But they know that there's more to them that they're not grasping. They just don't know how to get it.
Mm-hmm. I admire, Jesse, that you're trying to collect all this information and disseminate and spread it on this podcast with your coaching and everything. So I'm just curious, what's your mission in your life? You're here. What are you trying to do with? What are you trying to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. My mission is to help awaken the spirit in human beings and unleash their human potential, right? To stop suffering, to alchemize their pain into something beautiful, to bring light into their darkest moments so that they can end suffering. Because I think that when we end suffering, when people get out of their suffering state and they find, you see the lightness on their cheekbones, you
Mm-hmm.
see the smile on their face, where you can fall in love with the breeze or the bird chirping outside, when you just stop in a moment of gratitude and you're awe inspired and you see the world that way, then all you want to do is give. When your heart is opened and it's not covered with all what I call heart armor, right, from
Hmm.
all the times that we've been wounded, you see through the lenses of love and beauty in all of humanity. And so now you show up and you want to give, which is why I have a mastermind called Army of Angels. And from that is now, once we get you into a sovereign state, once we get you understanding that your power is within you and that you can have anything you want, the only limitation to the human being is the belief there is one. Now, what do you want to do with life? And at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. We're here for each other. Nobody wants to go it alone. It's like the minute you accomplish something big in your life, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to go share it. You want to
Right.
tell someone, oh my God, I did the thing, right? And so when we start to get rid of all of our limitations to find our smile again, all we want to do is share it and give to others. And we help the little old lady cross the street, and we
Mm-hmm.
let somebody go first, and we're not arguing on the freeway because we're letting people go in front of us. Okay, whatever. It's like you just come to that beautiful, beautiful state. I think we can shift the world. And I'm
Wow.
here to do whatever I can as one woman can do to help shift the world, because
Mm-hmm.
what I believe, those people, when they were kind to me, they didn't know who they woke up. But one of the biggest things I want people to know is that we are not powerless and we are not helpless. When you start to see everything that's going wrong in the world, it can feel like we're helpless. What's happening? Our world's going to crap. Everybody's killing each other. What's going on? We're not helpless, because one act of kindness can change the trajectory of someone's life like it did mine.
Wow.
That's a beautiful
Said,
message,
what
Jesse.
did we learn
Uh,
today?
we've learned quite a lot, man. Um, there's a lot of interesting messages Jesse has been sharing, from woman empowerment to being vulnerable and also returning women to their feminine core. I really agree with the concept of just like letting women return to their feminine core, because I do feel like that is a man's mission as well, to help a woman with that. And then, because then things just fall in line. And I feel like we were saying this in the previous podcast, happy wife makes happy life. So let's stick to that. It's just like, that's the easiest way to say it, guys. Um, Jesse, where can people find you? How can they connect with you? And what can they learn from you?
Absolutely. Well, I have a few different offerings. If just go to unshakablelife.com, and on there, oh, and I have a free gift for your listeners too
Oh,
that I'd love
nice.
to offer.
Yippee!
It's 10 steps to freedom. I call it 10 steps to freedom, but it's kind of a little bit of an emergency kit. No matter
Yeah.
where you are in life right now, where you might feel stuck, and you might be saying, well, you don't understand, Jesse. You don't know my situation. this is what's going on. There is something you can do. And this guide will help you to be able to take action in your life, in your sovereignty right now, no matter what the situation. And so that's what I want to offer to you guys. And that'll help, connect with me. You go to unshakablelife.com, schedule a call with me. It's a free call. And let's just have a conversation. Let's see where you're at so that I could see how I could best support you, serve you, and to see you'll walk away no matter what with clarity and empowerment, right? And we'll have some fun. So don't be shy. I'd be honored to chat with anybody in your audience. So that's where you can find me.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Jesse. Guys,
Absolutely.
don't forget to connect with Jesse, and also don't forget to subscribe. I mean, come on, guys. It's just one. You just click on the button.
Click.
Press it.
There
Click.
you go.
Thank you for watching the podcast. You guys know how we end this. We salute to cover the camera. Jesse, thank you again, and peace.